श्री अशोक गहलोत जी, श्री भारत सिंह सोलंकी जी, श्री भार्गव ठाकर, श्री सिद्धार्थ पटेल, श्री जीतू पटवारी जी, श्री शक्ति सिंह गोहिल जी, leaders on the stage, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I am very happy to be back in Gujarat, which has produced India's most extraordinary sons, Mahatma Gandhi and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. I am also happy to be in your midst, who are renowned all over the world for your business and enterprise. I am also happy to be in the state where one of my daughters obtained her degree at IRMA in Anand. But I must state that I also speak with a heavy heart. I start my address by invoking the memory of more than 100 people who lost their lives last year in the wake of the demonetization. Tomorrow will mark exactly 1 year since the disastrous policy of demonetization was thrust on the people of our country. I say it with immense pain and a sense of deep responsibility that the 8th of November was a black day for our economy and indeed for our democracy. I remember feeling shocked when I heard the Prime Minister's announcement, and I wondered who advised him to inflict such a reckless step on our nation and whether any considered thought went into it. My dear friends and fellow countrymen, black money and tax evasion are a menace that the country needs to tackle. But demonetization was clearly not the solution. It has been suggested many times in the past as one of the methods to eradicate black money. But as a responsible government, we never took such a drastic measure because in our recent analysis, the costs of demonetization always exceeded the benefits very substantially. One must also remember that nowhere in the world has any democracy undertaken such a coercive move, withdrawing 86% of the legal tender in one single swoop. Neither would anyone advise to bring out an even more high-valued currency note of rupees 2,000 after invalidating 500 and 1,000 rupee notes. We know by now that none of the stated objectives of eliminating black money, terror financing, and counterfeit currency have been met. To promote a less cash economy, coercive steps like demonetization are ineffective. The cash in circulation after 1 year is close to 90% of the previous levels. The fact that more than 99% of the demonetized currency came back into the banking system has punctured the government's claims. There are also widespread reports of the rich converting their black money into white while the poor have undergone immense suffering. Demonetization has proved to be mere bluster to reap political dividends, while the real offenders have escaped. I repeat, as I stated in Parliament, this was organized loot and legalized plunder. We saw the impact of demonetization on the economy when the GDP growth rate dropped to 5.7% under the new calculations. Even this is bound to be a gross underestimate, as the pain of the informal sector is not adequately captured in the calculations of the GDP. Every 1% loss of GDP growth rate annually costs our nation 1.5 lakh crore rupees. Think of the human impact from this lost growth, the lost jobs, the youth whose opportunities have vanished, the businesses who had to shut down, and the entrepreneurs whose drive to succeed has turned into disappointment. What is even more tragic is none of the lessons from this monumental blunder have been learned by the Modi government. Instead of providing relief, as I had requested in Parliament, to the poor and the marginalized, farmers, traders, and the small and medium businesses who suffered the brunt of demonetization, the government chose to inflict on them a badly designed and hastily implemented GST. This twin blow is a complete disaster for our economy. It has broken the back of small and medium enterprises in India. In the textile hub of Surat alone, 60,000 looms have been discarded since July. At the rate of 35 jobs lost for every 100 looms shut, and an estimate of 21,000 jobs have been lost in just one industrial sector in Surat. The impact in the rest of the country is equally bad, if not worse. The supply chains and credit lines of our MSME sector and industrial clusters have been greatly affected, hampering production. You are aware of the damage done to the ceramics sector in Morvi and the industries in Vapi and Rajkot. Overall, as our domestic sector is not able to cope with demand, China is benefited from this situation. In the first half of fiscal year 2016-17, India's imports from China stood at rupees 1.96 lakh crore, bringing the same period during the same period in fiscal 2017-18, the imports from China increased to rupees 2.41 lakh crores. This unprecedented increase of imports by more than rupees 45,000 crores, which is a 23% increase in a year, can be attributed largely to demonetization and the GST. These twin blows damaged India's medium and small manufacturing sector, and our businesses had to run to Chinese imports at the cost of Indian jobs. The goods and services tax, as envisaged in our government's own thinking, was supposed to simplify taxation in the country with a single tax capped at 18% to make life easier for our businessmen, both big and small. The current GST is a great departure from that vision. It has transformed into a complicated mess with multiple slabs and rates as high as 28% along with additional cesses. This was done by the government without paying any heed to our advice both in Parliament and in private consultations. Compliance requirements under the GST have become a nightmare for small businesses. The unending notifications and changes, a repeat of the chaos of demonetization, have caused needless and endless confusion. Along with demonetization, GST has sown a deep-rooted fear of tax terrorism among the business community. At a time when the economy has slowed down considerably despite favorable global macroeconomic conditions, the fear of tax terrorism has eroded the confidence of Indian business to invest. As you know, the growth in private investment is at a 25 years low. This is terrible for growth of India's economy. My dear friends, good governance involves both the head and the heart. It pains me to say that the union government has completely failed to do its duty on both fronts. Let me explain through the example of two of the greatest Gujaratis the world has seen. The Mahatma, who represents the heart and soul of our nation, gave us a talisman. He said, and I quote, "Whenever you are in doubt, apply the following test. Recall the face of the poorest and the weakest man whom you may have seen, and ask yourself if the step you contemplate is going to be of any use to him. Will he gain anything by it? Will it restore him to a control over his own life and destiny? In other words, will it lead to Swaraj for the hungry and spiritually starving millions?" Did, I ask, the Prime Minister stop to consider the wisdom of the Mahatma when asking the Reserve Bank Governor to sign on the dotted line, or while implementing the GST in utter haste? Did he think about the impact on those who toil in the informal sector, whose earnings have dried up because of a shortage of cash? Did he think about the millions of people who lost their jobs and had to return to their villages in despair? If the Prime Minister had paid attention to Mahatma Gandhi's talisman, the poor of India would not have suffered the way they did. Ladies and gentlemen, you know that I have seen crippling poverty while growing up in another other side of Punjab before partition. I have also seen the significant strides our great nation has taken in my lifetime, building on the foundations laid by Congress governments from Pandit Nehru to Shastri Ji to Indira Ji, Rajiv Ji, Narsimha Rao Ji to Vajpayee Ji. I can proudly say that when I was Prime Minister, we lifted 140 million people out of poverty a task no other democracy in the world has achieved in a period of 10 years. Yet, 1 in 2 Indians still remain vulnerable, and one blow can make them fall back into poverty. Demonetization and the GST were 2 blows that have probably pushed millions back into terrible hardship. So they had to turn to the social safety nets provided by the Manrega, brought in by the UPA government. The other great Gujarati who is an inspiration to all of us is the great Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. He was the force behind uniting India from 565 disparate princely states to one united, glorious nation. When undertaking the endeavor of one nation, one tax, if the Prime Minister had taken inspiration from the resolve and attention to detail of great Sardar Patel, the outcome today would have been very different. Bravado and drama are poor substitutes for courage with conviction and the ability to execute well. When we passed the nuclear deal in the UPA, one, the intelligence and idealism of Pandit Nehru, Sardar Patel and Indiraji were our guiding lights in our endeavor to end the nuclear apartheid of India and ensure energy security for all Indians. We stood strong by our principles and even risked our government while the BJP opposed us. We got the word to change the rules of the nuclear game in our favor, which is why the people of India supported us fully on the issue of the nuclear deal. Today, 1 year after demonetization, large sections of the country feel they have been taken for a ride by their government, that their trust was betrayed. Another example of the failure of both head and heart is right here in Ahmedabad. The bullet train project, launched with much fanfare, is sadly an exercise in vanity and will not benefit either 6.5 crore of Gujaratis or the Indian nation as a whole. Rupees 88,000 crores through a soft loan may seem like easy money, but it still needs to be repaid to the Japanese. Gujarati entrepreneurs know very well that if a deal is too good to be true, it probably is not. The bullet train project requires the creation of a parallel infrastructure while our existing passenger rail network is languishing and needs a dire infusion of funds and investment to improve both safety and speed. The past 1 year has seen the highest number of deaths due to derailments in more than a decade. But the government in Delhi, its priorities are entirely misplaced. Did the Prime Minister consider the alternative of introducing high-speed rail across India by upgrading the existing broad gauge infrastructure? The UPA had requested the Japanese to fund the dedicated freight corridor. Instead, we signed the deal in 2005. This project will create a multiplier effect on the economy with upgradation of transportation technology, increase in productivity, and reduction in unit transportation cost. My friends, question must be asked again and again on the soundness of policy and the lack of transparency in the Delhi government. It saddens me to see that every important issue that affects the lives of crores of citizens is being turned into binaries of black and white. The Congress Party has built India into a global economic powerhouse over the past 70 years. We want to ensure that the national interest is upheld and that the weaker sections of the society are effectively protected. By questioning the bullet train, does one become anti-development? Is everyone who questions the outcome of demonetization or GST a tax evader? Does questioning the drop in GDP rate make one an anti-national? This attitude of suspecting everyone to be a thief or an anti-national, the low-level rhetoric is damaging to democratic discourse and has real consequences for how we relate to one another as citizens. Political leaders must stick to the high road. Every government builds on the foundations of the past and benefits from the efforts of the center. Pandit Nehru laid the foundation of the Sardar Sarovar Dam, and various Congress governments took it forward. Water poured into the Narmada main canal the year our present Prime Minister first became Chief Minister of Gujarat. I also remember that when the World Bank cut funding for the project, as Finance Minister of India, I stepped forward to provide the needed funding from the center. As we think of the benefits to farmers from the Sardar Sarovar project, we must also address their concerns about land acquisition. It was the Congress Party that ushered in a historic change in the form of the landmark right to fair compensation and transparency in land acquisition. Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act 2013, undoing a 123-year-old imbalance and injustice to the farmers. The objective was to ensure a humane, participative, informed, and transparent process resulting in least disturbance to the owners and making the affected person partners in development. This was inclusive growth, with both head and heart in the right place. However, barely a year after coming into power, the NDA government sought to amend the law to take away the need for social impact assessment studies, right to consent, and rehabilitation, resettlement, and other necessary safeguards, such as public hearing of those affected. While the Congress, under the leadership of Sonia ji and Rahul ji, prevented this from happening, the Gujarat state government and other BJP-led governments have amended the law at the state level, undermining the spirit of the national law. Is it any wonder that our farmer brothers continue to protest for justice in these states? Our farmers are also suffering from extended agrarian distress, along with the impact of demonetization and depressed rural spending. The decline in real wages is apparent to all, while the BJP's poll promise of increasing the minimum support price and giving farmers prices 50% above the cost of production has been betrayed. The loan waivers announced in a few states have only paid lip service to our farmers' concern. Similarly, our Adivasi brothers and sisters are being hurt. The Gujarat government has been the worst performer in settling claims and distributing the title deeds to Adivasis and other forest dwellers as per the historic scheduled tribes and other traditional forest dwellers recognition of Forest Right Acts passed by the UPA in 2008. While across India, deeds have been disposed of at the rate of 87%, in Gujarat, the figure stands a poor 44%. Moreover, the Gujarat government has taken a very controversial decision to ease norms for selling forest land to industries. The bottom 4 districts in human development in Gujarat are the Adivasi districts of Dahod, Dangs, Panchmahal, Banaras, Kanta. On every social indicator, from infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, to female literacy, Gujarat unfortunately has fallen behind the best performing states in our country, including Himachal, Karnataka, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu. The abdication of the Gujarat state of public education has led to rampant privatization and decreasing quality of education. This in turn is affecting the competitiveness of otherwise sharp Gujarati youth in the job market. The recent agitations of the youth cutting across different sections of the society is an indication of the deep dissatisfaction with the performance of successive BJP governments in Gujarat. The winds of change are blowing in Gujarat. The Congress party will ensure that the voice of every Gujarati, regardless of caste, creed, gender or class, is heard and will be heard. Our Congress government will govern with both head and heart, with Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and Mahatma Gandhi as our inspirations. After decades, the time has come, ladies and gentlemen, for the intelligent and enterprising people of Gujarat to once again repose their faith in the Congress party, which will work together with 6.5 crore Gujaratis to take this state to new heights and the future it truly deserves. Jai Hind, Jai Gujarat.